Welcome back to another episode of Inboxing. I'm your host, Hillel Berg. Inboxing is brought to you by the great people at OnGage. OnGage is a fantastic platform which will allow you to do fantastic email marketing because what it allows you to do is really incorporate data into almost everything you do. Really, you take any data point and a very simple, easy to use interface. So everyone check out OnGage. And that's my recommendation for today. And today we have a guest. And she's a great guest. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun talking. We just did. But we're going to be talking about email. And that's the topic of the show, always. And email development and her story from whatever. I'll let her tell it. But basically, we're talking about Megan Boshuyzen. I think I said that right. Or we'll find out in a second, but it doesn't really matter. We'll just call her Meg Bosh as her Twitter handle, and she's been, really just came out of the woodwork into the scene of email development, and she recently spoke at the Unspam conference in Greensboro, North Carolina, if I'm getting all my facts straight. And she spoke about accessibility, and we'll hopefully get some of the highlights of that talk, but we'll probably get a lot more than that. So without any further ado, please welcome, I know we have at least 2 people watching, so please welcome Megan Boshuyzen.
Hi.
Megan,
you said my last name right. Yay.
Yippee, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, for sure. And we'll jump right in. And we'd love to hear a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did you get into email?
Yeah, so I actually started off back in the graphic design world. For a very long time, throughout most of my design career, I've kind of flirted at the edges of email, with it being kind of something I did, but not my total responsibilities. I designed my first email actually back in 2008, where it was in a Photoshop file, and I just sent it off to developers to put together and send out. So I had no idea what happened after that. I remember this particular project being in an internship, and it was the first piece I ever designed where I got it back and was told to completely redo it, which was an interesting experience for me. And it was at a company called Student Advantage that doesn't exist anymore. They did discounts for college students. And it was for Amtrak, which I thought was really cool at the time. You could get discounts on your Amtrak tickets to go on a train and go off somewhere for, Labor Day or whatever. So that was my first email. Super fun. From there, I made a lot of image-only emails, slicing them, putting them in, coding them up, checking them in Gmail around 2010, not understanding why there were huge gaps between my table cells. I decided I hated email. I wanted nothing to do with it. I never wanted to develop for email. Through my graphic job that I had for a couple of years, I just do full images, put SP we use, sent them out that way. It's email. And then 2017 happened. So in 2017, I was helping run a children's publishing house called Press, where I was handling a lot of the design, website, email, that sort of thing. And I started seeing in email how it was boosting our sales. And I started realizing that maybe email wasn't so bad after all, and that I personally had a knack for it and could understand a little bit how it worked and how it could help us. And I got a job at my previous position at the Harold Grinspoon Foundation, which is doing blog posts and email. And I initially took that job because I wanted to do a lot of the web stuff. And when I took the position, the discussion was that it was 2 positions in one, and I'd grow in one area. And when it became too much for me to handle it all, we'd hire the other position. So I took it. I said, okay, I'm going to do both, whatever, email, whatever. I'll grow on the website. I created their blog styles and all that. I was like, I'll grow on that side, get back to some coding, and then we'll hire an email marketing specialist. And that's not what happened. While at the foundation, I started getting into the emails. I think I started getting addicted when I took one email that had like a very low open rate, very low click-through rate. And I decided, it was just like this monthly email. I decided to totally redo it. I was just like, I'm going to redo this. These stats are terrible. And like right away, I saw like a increase, like quadruple percentage increase in the click-through on this email. So I was like, oh, okay, I understand this. And in that same time span, like I started going to conferences. I found Email Geeks. I've been in there since 2017, which is wild to think of because it doesn't feel that long. And I just kept going from there. I was really lucky to have a manager.
Sorry to cut you off. Just mean the Slack chat? You mean the Slack chat?
Yeah, the Slack. On Slack, Email Geeks. Yes. If you're watching, you don't know what Email Geeks is, go join Email Geeks. Best thing I ever did for my career was join Email Geeks. I have so many friends from there now. We could spend an hour with me talking about Email Geeks. I'll put it that way. But yeah, at the Harold Grinspoon Foundation, I was really lucky that I had a fantastic manager, Craig, who kind of let me run with email a lot of the time. So I started coding up different templates and he let me run with design and we test things. So I just built my skill set from there. And today I am at Pathwire as their senior email developer. I started there back in July and it's been pretty fun.
Amazing. Because you just mentioned Pathwire, let's like jump like 8 questions down. So what do you do in your new role at Pathwire?
So at Pathwire, I am the senior email developer. So I'm developing a lot of the marketing emails, starting to speak at conferences, go to webinars, be kind of like a developer advocate. We're working on...
Can you speak to what is Pathwire? Yeah. Like I think a lot of people... I didn't know what Pathwire was until
so
I was like shocked. I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah,
when
so you'll know some of the companies that the brands we have. So we're Pathwire. We were just acquired by this global company called Cinch. They're like telecommunications stuff, messaging and all that. They're Swedish. Seem like a super cool group of people. I'm really excited about us being acquired by them. But you'll recognize our other brands. So Pathwire is Mailgun, which is all your API transactional needs. Mailjet, which is like your small business ESP, visual editor. It's really cool. Automations, yada, yada, all that jazz. And Email on Acid, which email developers tend to know really well. The funny thing is that I was interviewing with Email on Acid when they were acquired by Pathwire. So I ended up getting hired straight into Pathwire instead of Email on Acid. So that's how I actually ended up at Pathwire. So it's really cool to get now to work with all 3 brands instead of just the one. I have pretty amazing coworkers. We're hiring, come talk to me, join my team.
Is it remote or is it
fully remote? Yeah, I'm at home in my office, 100% remote. It's flexible. Like my coworkers are a delight. I am just so incredibly happy here. Yeah, it's really great. Yeah.
Wow, really cool. All right. So what do you love most about email development?
One of the reasons why I really love email development is the challenge of it. I am the type of person is always the type of designer that I'm like really happy within a style guide. I don't like the world being too open to me. In that sense, I need like some structure. So the structure of email development gives me not quite a framework to work in, but it gives me that structure that I need to develop in. So while something may work in Gmail, it might not work in Outlook or it might not work in AOL. And I love being able to like tackle those problems to see what the best solution is that we can get. And I just love the fact that then it goes out into the world and communicates with people who want to see these emails. And, we just have that back and forth between, our users and our company. So that's really what I love about all of it. In like a little nutshell, it's probably another thing I can try to keep myself from ranting because I can do that.
Yeah, you made it kind of sound like whack-a-mole, like, oh crap, Outlook crap AOL, Yahoo, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like whack-a-mole so much as in just like knowing. I think that's knowledge that you pick up over time. You pick it up more quickly when you have a community around you, which is, I think, what helped me a lot. I think if I was on my own, it wouldn't be as fun. But because there's a whole community, it makes it more, I mean, that just makes anything more fun, but it makes it a little bit easier to fix these issues. And at times it is really frustrating at times when you can't figure out what's going on. But that moment that it like clicks and you realize it, and then, going forward feels like a really special moment for me. It's that I'm always on the quest for acquiring more knowledge. So it's like that feeling of that you now know something that you didn't before.
For sure. I think I started in development. I've been a developer, since like 2012 or so, 2013. When we started, it was all about responsive. Like that was like the year of responsive. So that was the big challenge. We talked about that a lot. It's interesting, like in 2017, like the Slack channel became the dominant thing. I think before that, it was Twitter. For sure. It's like the Twitter geeks on. And it was amazing what you're talking about is that everyone helps each other. When you get help, professional help, you're stuck in an issue, you don't know what's going on, you're seeing a line that shouldn't be there, and someone comes and says, oh, here's what you got to do. It's just like you have a bond with that person forever.
I mean, it's like the difference between me trying to do stuff back in 2010 and not finding any resources about why something is happening a certain way in Gmail. And that was the only email client I was testing on, because I was in that was my first job out of college, and I was in this tiny little marketing department with not a lot of support. I basically had to just figure out and kind of make it happen. So like the difference between then and the difference between now, or even 5 years ago, is really stark, and like what emails can do. And like even back then, like responsive websites were even just becoming a thing, and I didn't really understand it because in school, like we weren't talking about responsive websites all that much. Like it wasn't a thing from 2006 to 2010. I mean, like 2009, 2010, it started becoming a thing. So it was like I was already behind at that point. It was like a lot of catch up once I got out of school. But yeah, that's like the difference between then and being like, I don't want to touch email development at all, to now being like, oh my gosh, I love email development so much. Yeah, this was definitely like the career like swerve that I didn't see coming. Like I thought I was going to be a creative director. That's what I was trying to do 5 years ago. And now I am not a creative director. I'm an email developer.
All right. So what do you think are the big opportunities in custom HTML that aren't available, when you just use the WYSIWYG?
There are plus and minuses to both. I think the biggest opportunities or pros to custom coding is that you can control your brand a bit more there. Use the web fonts that you want, do your support where they're supported, your colors, your spacing, even like sometimes your spacing can get a little wonky in WYSIWYGs because WYSIWYG's trying to account for like any situation whatsoever where you're only accounting for like your situation. So like, what you can do. So like you can control the design a lot more in that way and experiment a bit more. Like if you want to experiment with overlapping content, you can, or animations you can, depending on the WYSIWYG, the ESP can lint your code. So like say you're trying to do any sort of animation and they'll be like, nope, not good for email. We're removing it. Like that, I used to not be able to do any interactive stuff because the ESP we use would just remove it all. So like that can happen. WYSIWYGs also don't account for accessibility as much as they could. Like you can put alt text on your images, but you can't always style them. Another thing with accessibility is that coders do, and email accessibility tends to be a bigger lift on the development side than the designer side. I mean, there are things designers obviously can do, but it's not as big as a lift for them. It's just like design principles. But like on the code side, if you're using tables, you're supposed to put, your role attribute as presentation so that the screen readers don't read your content as data. Like WYSIWYGs don't always do that. WYSIWYGs don't always, or for a large part, aren't taking dark mode into account yet. Like I would love to see WYSIWYGs allow people to set their dark mode styles or try to do it for them maybe. Like you can control mobile in some ESPs a little bit now, where they'll let you like reset your font sizes at least. Yeah, so like those are kind of the major. I'd love to see more accessibility stuff happen at the ESP level. Love to see dark mode start getting supported, because that's still not supported everywhere.
For sure.
Well,
Yeah, it would be nice if they would let you, like build an email in WYSIWYG, but then like export the HTML and then like, okay, I want less padding here. I want to, I want to mess with it, but they won't let you do that. Yeah, they won't let you do that because they're, they don't want to, let you break your own email.
Right. And you can control like your vertical like padding a little bit. Like they'll have like spacers that you can put in and stuff, but it adds a lot of bulk. Like the code also tends to be a bit more bulky because they are taking like so many things into account. Of course, that code's going to end up bulky, where if you're custom coding, you can control all that.
Right. I mean, have you seen like, like Jay's code, Jay Oram, he was he was a guest on the show also. Yeah. And I see his code. It's like, it's beautiful.
I had that moment with Remy sent me something one time. I was trying to solve a
Remy
problem.
Parmentier?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely said his name wrong, but yeah, he's one of those.
I was like, oh my gosh, your code's so beautiful. Remy, if you're watching, I have completely switched the way I code because of you. So thank you.
Yeah, Remy and I have a very special bond. Remy has like saved my life.
Changing the way I code. I've been changing it up, modernizing the way I code a bit, because when I started learning how to like truly develop, I was working off of contractors' already established templates. So it was kind of just like learning off of that. And my code was all very bulky because of the ESP I was using and their templating languages and stuff. So like right now I'm currently like kind of refreshing and relearning the way that I do things, which has been a little bit of a frustrating but interesting experience.
Right.
We're getting there.
I mean, like I still code, when I do a code, I use, hybrid code based on Nicole Merlin's tutorial, which is what I learned in like when she first published it. But that was so transformative for me. Like that's how I'll code. Like that's the framework, and then HTML, CSS, and you can play with everything. You can pretty much do anything. But like I know today, like like no one's doing that so much anymore. Like now, because most things are respecting media queries. People doing mobile first. There's always like these templates, that are out there. But it's interesting. It's always like for me. It's like, oh, do I want to really like try to rebuild my template mobile first? I'm not sure, like, so it's good for you for, making the leap and, being honest about it. Like, that it's scary, it's, what you're doing, you have your comfort zone, and then it's like, okay, now, well, should we try, picking up something else, adding more tools to the toolbox?
Right. It's like, how do we expand what we know? I think we always have to expand what we know, and it doesn't do us any good as developers to be like stubborn in the way we do things, because it'll change, and different situations call for different solutions. So it's good to kind of have a grasp on as much as you can.
Did you always, I mean, I'm going to reread this question. Like, did you always want to do it in custom coding, or like did you try using the the WYSIWYG editor and then get frustrated, or like what basically drew you to say like, what, I don't want to use the WYSIWYG, I want to like code it myself?
So I've switched back and forth depending on my situation. Like for Mango Marigold Press, I actually used a WYSIWYG, mostly because like a lot of it was a time factor for coding, and because that was like a side company I was helping run, we didn't have the resources. Like I couldn't fully test a custom code. So I was like, okay, if I do this in the WYSIWYG, at least I know it'll look okay everywhere. And we weren't doing anything like intense with those emails. So I felt okay like using the WYSIWYG, because you pop in an image and you pop in some text and like you're good to go. Went to HTML coding. I would say it wasn't really my choice. I mean, it kind of was. But when I started at the Harold Grinspoon Foundation, I walked into custom MailChimp templates. They were using a contractor before I came in, and they were using that contractor until they hired someone. So when I came in, I actually talked to that person about developing, and like they suggested like looking into the QA programs to make sure everything looked right via screenshots and stuff. So it started with me really having to take those templates and just like editing them. And then I kind of just started getting into it because like it's the coding zone that like I'm comfortable with. Like I never extended, I never like went into full blown like front end web development. So it was like the HTML and CSS I was already comfortable with. Like I always joked that it was like coding in 2010. Like that's what it feels like. So like it was my comfort area. So it was easier for me to pick up on. So I just started then developing more and learning more, and it just went from there.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it's, I mean, I could be wrong, but I find a lot of times that people get into email development aren't coming necessarily from like web development. So they don't have these like preconceived notions that make it frustrating to code. It's just like, okay, this is how you code. You use tables and that's fine.
Yeah, like use HTML and CSS and that's it. And like, yeah, and it was at the level of HTML and CSS that I already knew, basically. So like I didn't come in with any like really advanced CSS skills, like using any crazy, like pseudo selectors and selectors and being able to do, all the different like fancy things that you can do in CSS. So it was like a perfect like entryway for me. By the time I got to that point in my career, I feel like I kind of missed the boat in trying to get into front end web development because I had previously spent like 4 years in graphic design with some like really, really light website development, but not really a lot of anything. So it was kind of just like my skills were at, I think, the perfect place to just slide into email development and start growing my skills there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about this next question just because, like, have you worked with a lot of ESPs? This question is, what are your favorite ESPs? And I'm just wondering, have you worked only with MailChimp and you have to mention MailJet?
Yeah, not. And I saw this question. I was like, yeah, I actually haven't worked in a whole ton of ESPs. My biggest knowledge is in MailChimp. And at my graphic design job, I worked for an auto dealer group, and we used like proprietary specific to the car industry stuff. So it was like nothing that would like carry over anywhere else. And I wasn't doing a lot in there anyway. So I worked with MailChimp a lot, which I think was good for beginning. For email development, they definitely have I'll just say email developers are not their target audience. So I hit the limits there pretty quickly. I mean, other than that, I actually don't know a whole lot of other ESPs. I probably shouldn't give a favorite. I played around in MailJet, and that's not just to plug like the product of the company I worked for. It is really cool. Something that's cool in there that I haven't seen in other ESPs is that you can send the email off to somebody like in the browser to look at, and you can annotate right in the email. And it's really easy to make A/B tests, which I found really cool and easier to use compared to a couple of other ESPs that I've used. So I definitely think like if you're a small business and you have just small business needs, going to MailJet and checking it out, I think is definitely worth it. There's some cool things in there. Yeah.
Good job. Plug in the sponsor.
Plug in my company. That's not the point of me being here.
All right. What was the biggest challenge for you learning to code email?
Oh, I think it's really dealing with Outlook. And that's how I found Email Geeks. The story I tell with finding Email Geeks is that I was desperately Googling solutions, I think, for an Outlook issue. And I was in a forum, and somebody happened to link to it. Like in like one of the, I don't even know how many messages deep on this thread I was reading, but they mentioned Email Geeks. So I joined. So yeah, it's really just Outlook was the hardest for me in figuring it out. And there are some like quirks to email development that I think you kind of take for granted that after a while. like, having to make images a block element because of Gmail, having to use ghost tables and set your width attribute because like Outlook 2016 is not going to respect a max width. It's all the little things like that that you just like learn over time.
Right. For sure. We got. All right. So what was the most surprising thing you learned in the process?
Oh gosh. I feel like everything's surprising when you're learning all the time. I think the most surprising is often when people, I think, ask for things and they don't realize like what they're asking for. So it's like when I realized you couldn't put video in email, or like a form is going to be very hard to do in email. Those in like interactivity can be hard, though we can do more than we think. That's like one of my big things for this year is to start finally diving into interactive email, because I didn't have the opportunity to do that before. So now it's going to be time to really learn that stuff. That's my next big thing. So
cool. Yeah. Nice. All right. All right. What are your favorite tools?
This is where I get to fangirl about Parcel. So for email development, so I use a tool called Parcel. If you're an email developer, get Parcel. It's literally the best tool for email development, like hands down. Avi, who I know was on here previously, is super embedded in the community, talks to people all the time. If you're missing a feature that's keeping you from using Parcel, tell him and he will probably build it. Sorry, Avi, I'm putting you on the spot. He'll probably build it for you. We recently actually partnered on a newer feature that he has called Components, which is great for building.
He built that for me.
Okay.
It's amazing.
A bunch of us probably talked to him about it. Because I got access to that back in like December, and it was like basically an alpha. And it's pretty awesome, Components. I'm currently building a whole new email design system using it, and it's just going to make email development like so much faster. Like, yeah, I could go on and on and on.
Unbelievable. Right. No, it's
Parcel's
true.
an unbelievable piece of software. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And Components is like a huge tool. I mean, yeah, because you could just pre-populate, a piece of code so quickly.
Yeah.
Like you basically take a piece of code into a form almost and just like bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, I love it. I love how, and this just shows, I love how like several of us will be having like the same ideas. Cause like, I remember Steve Hambleton, is that his last name? And he's in Australia. He had mentioned, taking like Components a step further and talk to Avi about like creating, I think like projects or something like that, like some like sort of like templating type thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that was like going to be my next ask. Like, how do we extend this further? So I do love that like a lot of us are thinking along the same lines, and then we all get what we want and make Avi build it for us. Sorry, Avi.
It's like Santa Claus, right? Like, yeah, no. So for me, like he did two things for me, because we got the components. He was already developing components. So like I spoke to him, I have this problem. I have this client, building these emails. There's like basically the same thing over, and I don't want to copy and paste all these products, and titles. So he told me like how to parse that data, like basically a tool that will parse the page into JSON. And then, and in Parcel, it'll take the data and put it into basically like,
I've done some really, really cool things I've done some really incredibly cool things with Components. And when my email design system is done, there will be stuff out there about it. Like I will share like what I did, because it's really cool, especially the fact that I have to handle, 3 brands using one code base. So like I have my first version just about done, and I have it coded up that like I can just name the brand in my email and it'll just pull all the styles that I need in for that particular brand. So it's
amazing.
Awesome. It's so awesome. And like my footer switches and my logo switches and my color switches. It's pretty amazing. So that's my most favorite tool. Not to turn this into a parcel advertisement, I will now talk about my second favorite tool, in which I obviously use Email on Acid to check all my screenshots, to make sure my emails look good everywhere. My favorite thing about Email on Acid is really the unlimited previews, especially with working on email design system. Like with the amount that I've tested just my version 1, it's a 1-column template. The amount of times I've tested this thing to make sure it looks good everywhere, I would have probably hit my preview limit on any other QA platform. So like the unlimited has been really key for me on working on the email design system. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you're looking at different QA software.
So which one is that?
Email on Acid.
Email on Acid.
I'm plugging the other brand.
Working for
because I work for Pathwire, so I'm plugging my other brand. But I do like Email on Acid a lot. I did not previously use Email on Acid. I used the other one. But I do like Email on Acid.
Every email does. We're talking about the other one is. But,
the other one. But I do like Email on Acid a lot. They haven't, they obviously also have analytics. I haven't used the analytics yet. I'm going to be putting them in with the new email design system so we can get a better sense of where people are opening up our emails, so I can know like where to further put efforts in certain email clients. And yeah, it's been really great so far. It's been working out really well. So those are the two tools that I'm in every day is Parcel and Email on Acid. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Can you speak about clean code and deliverability? Do you know about the relationship between having clean code and being a deliverable email?
My feeling about like a quote unquote clean code and deliverability, the code itself, deliverability is like a beast anyways. And by no means am I an expert on deliverability at all. Like my eyes kind of gloss over when we start talking about deliverability. I just know don't send bad emails and send to engaged audiences. But like, and even just like that, like, I think it's more important to look at like your content for deliverability than like the code. Because like your code base is your code base, and there's not a whole lot of like funky things as far as I know that you could put in there to like ruin your deliverability. It's going to be more like, are you spamming people? Is the content sketchy? Are you sending to, a bot list? Don't do that. And that sort of thing. Like if you're having
now we have deliverability people come on the show to talk about that stuff. But I specifically for code. Development and deliverability.
I don't think about deliverability all that much when coding. I leave that to like the content people.
Okay.
More so, yeah.
All right. So, but now you have something to say. All right. So you recently gave a talk about accessibility. Yeah. So you give us some of the highlights of that talk.
Yeah. So in accessibility, start off with a little story that ended up being about myself. So the angle I came at with this talk was less about like stats and ROI and that sort of thing. And even less about like, someone perhaps being colorblind or needing a screen reader. I actually talked about about cognitive load and how our emails can affect how people process information. So like, for example, like I have a learning, I don't know if you want to call it disability or difference. I don't know if there's a difference between the two words. But I have like a learning thing called auditory processing disorder, and it's affected me my whole life. Like I did not begin really speaking until after 3 years old. And I had to go through like intense therapies, and I learned to speak using sign language, and I couldn't follow multi-step directions. I still can't follow multi-step directions very well. And just it makes it, when you are hearing things, and for me, there's a visual aspect to it, it can be hard to process what's going on around you. So a lot of my talk was really about thinking about how your visuals affect people. And the example that I gave and kind of broke down and showed how we could change it was there's this company does women's clothing called Third Love. They create these really beautiful visual emails. They're because they're direct to consumer. They're very heavy image based. They use a lot of GIFs to showcase their products, which most of the time works out pretty well, except in this one case. So in this one case that they did, they had this GIF. It was maybe just about 2 seconds long, and they had 4 products up per second. And it was a product, a regular price, and a sales price. And then like each product was a little bit different color, perhaps a different style. So like when I opened up this email, my brain just like went like, what is happening here? Because I was trying to like parse this information. I'm like, what is going on? I'm getting out of this email. I'm not buying any of this stuff. So it's like if you're turning people away with that. So like so there was like no consistency in this image, and that like none of the pricing was grouped, which was one suggestion I gave. Or putting the grouping them by price or grouping them by item so that all the same items were together. So it was like if they grouped them together and like slowed down the GIF, if they wanted to go that animated route, like it would have been a lot easier to read. Or even if they just went static image, would have probably even been better in that case, and not like the GIF wasn't needed. It wasn't adding anything to the email. So they could have just gone static and it still would have been a beautiful email. So that was like the big thing I talked about. My other big takeaway for people from my talk was really, it was more about doing the right thing. A lot of times when I've watched accessibility talks, you'll see people start to throw statistics at you. This percentage of people have these sort of disabilities. This is how much money you're throwing away by not supporting these things. And I think as email developers and designers and copywriters just across the board, if our goal is to communicate with our users, we need to be able to meet them where they're at no matter what. That's just accessibility should be baked into what I tend to refer to as your email culture. Like it should just be baked in, because if you're not communicating to everyone that you're possibly, trying to communicate with, then, the other stuff, it feels kind of obvious. Like then, yes, you're leaving money on the table. Yes, it's not going to convert how you want, because the bottom goal is to communicate with your users and your audience. So if you can't communicate with them, why are you sending the email? And I just feel like we don't see enough of that in the email industry. A lot of times, people have said to me, well, the ROI is not there. Well, it's too much of a lift. And even if you don't have access to code, there are still things you can do from a visual perspective to help with that cognitive load, to help with reading, to help with screen readers and color blindness and all of that. So
Right.
I just think that it's like, that's ground floor, table stakes.
Even like dark text on a on a light background. Like, sometimes,
Right.
Using images and live text, that's just not working.
Right. It's like it, and I think sometimes like it's letting go of like brand standards a little bit. Not totally, but just a tiny bit. Which graphic designers probably don't like me for saying that. Yeah, and I just think, sometimes you just have to say, is this the right thing to do? And the answer is yes. And once you have, especially as developers, like once your framework is there, it's not a whole ton of it's not extra technical lift once you have your framework in there. We all work from our own framework, so you're probably not starting from complete scratch every time. So yeah, it's just like make your emails accessible as much as you can, because like not everyone's a developer, not everybody has access to it, but just do the best you can. And that's really like what I wanted people to get away from it, and for them to think about, how their own email programs are being run, and like, what can they do today to change it? Like, what's something easy that you can do and then make the change?
Nice. Congratulations. Cool. All right. So what was your biggest code crisis? How did you
Oh
handle it?
gosh. Oh gosh. When I read this question, I actually wasn't so much of a code crisis, but more me not understanding at the time, like simple programming principles of like, if I change a template and it syncs over to my ESP and I have an email waiting to go out, that email is going to change. I made that mistake one time where we had like our basic like template. Oh my gosh. We had this basic template, right? It was like our engagement template, whatever. Gosh, that may have been a Tu B'Shvat email. And I needed to add an extra text block into this email for something else I was working on. And this other email was already scheduled. So in MailChimp, with their templating system, like you can create blocks that you can show and hide. But if you add in a new block, it's going to default as showing. So when I sent out this email, I'm pretty sure I think it was Tu B'Shvat. The email went out.
Just for anyone who doesn't know.
For anyone who doesn't know, Tu B'Shvat's a Jewish holiday, sorry. Side note, at Unspam, I used a bunch of Bernie Sanders memes and I wanted to like crack like a like Zaide Bernie like joke. And I was like, there's exactly one person I know in this audience who will get this. So I didn't do it. The curse. It's not really a curse. Anyways, so and I had used like my sample language for coding this text block was from a totally different thing, like super confusing for anybody who got this email because the holiday email was scheduled and we had this there were these things it was for this thing called get together grants at Howard Grinspoon. We were giving people money to hold like Jewish gatherings. So it was like this thing about the holiday Tu B'Shvat, and then, get together with your friends, blah, 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 blah. CTA, not related. I remember one of my coworkers like messaging me and she was like, Meg, I just got this. And I was just like, oh no. Like, and it just was never a thought that because I made the change in my code editor, I was not using Parcel. Parcel, I don't think existed at the time. I was using this code editor. It synced over to MailChimp. And then because that email was scheduled but not sent, it could still technically be changed. Yeah, that was a big learning moment for me. I had a lot of big learning moments at the nonprofit with email stuff, a whole lot.
Yeah, I feel like most email marketing devs like / marketers have stepped in it a few times, and that's what makes them better. Because okay, that happened to me. That's my scar. That's why I know not to do that again.
And it doesn't happen again, hopefully. Like that never happened again. Like, because I knew not to. If I wanted to make significant changes to an email template, I did it separately, and then I would sync it over after, like until nothing was going out. That's what I learned from that. That was one of the bigger ones. That's probably that's the one I thought of right away. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Let's go to the flip side. All right. So what are your proudest email achievements?
Oh my gosh. My proudest, I mean,
you spoke it on. That must have been a highlight speaking.
I guess you mean like in general. I wasn't sure here if like you wanted like me like my coding stuff or just in general.
No, I mean you can take it. It's really very open. It's really how you see it.
Like oh gosh, like the last 6 months, like since joining Pathwire, I've been in a constant state of like what is happening to my life right now. Because like I was really active in in the email geeks community before that. I was like trying to get on the speaking circuit, but hadn't been quite successful yet. And as I was like switching jobs, I got my first speaking engagement, which was with Litmus Live. I did a recorded talk for them since they ended up going virtual. It's like been in the last 6 months, like the speaking stuff has ramped up a lot. And just getting the job at Pathwire was like a really big deal for me because it like showed me that like I could actually do this. Like I really wanted to start specializing in email development. I wasn't sure if I was like good enough yet, quote unquote. And getting that job like just meant a whole lot to me, to be like, oh yes, like I can do this and I am like ready for this. And it's just
Like
been
you're
like
there. You're there. You've reached their
there, like
level.
I am there. And just like, yeah, and just like the support and the projects, like I have another project upcoming that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about yet, so I'm not talking about it. But I've been like vague tweeting about it, and I'm like, I want to talk about this, and I can't yet. That's going to be like so cool. I'm just like working on the coolest things right now. Email design system, this other thing. The people I've gotten to connect with, the speaking stuff, just it's been a very cool 6 months. So I'm very thankful for it. During a time period where it's terrible for a lot of people. It's just like, it's nice after the slog of the last couple of years to have something good happening.
All right. Awesome. All right, we're kind of like in this, like the wind down. We move away a little bit from development, but who are your favorite brands in the inbox? Who do you like to see?
Yeah, I'm pretty Spartan about my inbox. I unsubscribe from things really quickly, and then just go over to like really good emails if I need email inspiration. A cluttered inbox stresses me out a lot. But like Third Love, I really like their emails.
Oh, that's funny because you ranked on them.
I did, but I overall really like their emails.
Okay.
I overall really like them, but then it was like that one give, and that's why I'm like, I say this with love. Their emails are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. Their emails are beautiful, and Olipop has some like really beautiful emails. Their marketing is pretty awesome.
It's funny you mentioned Olipop, just because I've connected with them and I signed up, and I like their emails a lot. But are they like a national brand, or is it just like an email marketers kind of thing?
I mean, they have a pretty good product. They do like the seltzer thing.
It's like healthy soda, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's like a
really
healthy,
like gut healthy. Right. Like,
yeah, their director of, I don't know what's Eli's actual title, director of customer, whatever. He's a really nice guy. I've connected with him on Twitter.
Maybe that's how I found him.
Job. Yeah, it's via Eli because of Val Geisler, and I know I'm just name dropping whatever.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's like
they do a really nice job. I'm copying
a really nice job
for my client. Like I really like the
their emails are really nice. I like really good email always has good stuff coming out. I mostly subscribe to like newsletters nowadays.
Oh, interesting.
Like long form content, which is interesting. Like,
yeah, I get a bunch of those too.
Yeah, like newsletters I really like. I get Anti-Racism Daily. I get that once a week now. I went down to once a week for that for a little bit. Like their stuff's really good. We Need to Talk About This by Sarah Stockdale, who's also an email copywriter. She's pretty amazing. Cool. Yeah, I check her out. She's a pretty amazing person. Life is a Secret Text by Rabbi Danya Rutenberg is pretty awesome. Those are, and I get Motherwell, which is also a pretty good newsletter for parenting. I like them a lot. Those are like the newsletters I'm getting. I got kicked out of New York Times Parenting because they made it paid. And I was just like, nope.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not gonna do that.
I mean, people deserve to get paid for their content. I guess I shouldn't be so nonchalant about it. You deserve to get paid for what you create. On retail side, it's really like Third Love and Olipop I like a lot. They all could probably do a better job with like their alt text and that sort of thing. That's really my only complaint about any of them. I've been going images off for a while, and that's been an interesting exercise. Yeah, because especially with the emails, I didn't realize like the really, really big retailers use all dynamic content. Like I get Old Navy emails and you get them like several times a day. So I ignore a lot of them. And it's all dynamic content, which I did not realize. And that explains how they push out so much. Like I never knew how these big brands like push out so much. And it's because it's all dynamic. It ends up. So like with all the images off, there's literally zero text and all just says dynamic image on each one. And that's it. And then I have to turn on the images if I want to see what it is. Yeah, that's been a fun.
It's funny. It
really
became, like when there was this like transition, I think before we even started, but email and Asset, I think, had this thing where like you could take your images and turn them into like tables. So it became an image built out of tables. You know what I mean? They call it Mozify. Yeah. I don't know if it was them or someone else. Yeah, but it was like this tool that you could like, that way, like if your images don't load, people still see your image. And I know
yeah, do it in like the, there was one, oh gosh.
Yeah, Pizza Express would do
Pizza
these.
Express. I don't remember who tweeted at me about that one. That
probably,
one was amazing.
What's his name works on those? Jay Oram works on those
that
Pizza
was
Express
a really
emails, but
old one. Yeah, that was a really old
crazy.
email. I think probably before Jay was doing stuff.
Anyone's interested, check him out.
So
like
cool.
Pizza Express images off. I mean, because in that time, Gmail wasn't preloading images. Like a lot of places weren't preloading images.
They weren't preloading.
Right. So so like there was, when you open an email for a while, you'd see alt text, depending on your internet speeds and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really important to actually that people see something. Like while it's loading. All right. Here we go. So what are your favorite email campaigns of all time?
Oh gosh, that I've seen or that I've worked on?
No, I mean, you could say one of each, if you have a favorite one that you built, and then
I don't know. I mean, oh gosh. Okay, I guess I'll do my recent favorite email campaign that everyone's already seen, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. Action Rocket created Wordle in their email, which I thought was really cool.
I didn't see it.
Oh my gosh.
And I check out their emails. They're really good to me. They they give me hosts, they give me guests, they give me love on Instagram. Cool. They're very good to me.
I've never played Wordle. I just like know the basics of it.
Oh yeah, I play Wordle every day. When I'm putting my baby to sleep, that's my Wordle time.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't played it. But I remember Dylan Smith put out a tweet and was like, who's going to be the email developer who puts Wordle in email? And I immediately kind of like laughed. I was like, bet you Jay's going to do this. And the next thing I know, like Action Rocket puts it out. I was like, I knew it. That one was really delightful. They also did one a while back where the email like looked all like pop-ups. So it was just like all these images just start popping up in your email. And for a second I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do here? Like, what is happening? And then like I had the moment that I was like, they want me to tap on this or click on it. I don't remember where I was looking. I was like, boop. It's like, okay. And like Outlook got like this totally other different thing that made the email
totally different email. Open, yeah, I've done that.
Which made the people upset who like looked at it in Outlook.
You should not be looking in Outlook if you want like a marketing email. Right.
That was another really delightful email. Yeah, they send out some really delightful things.
Yeah, they experiment, so that's like their playground kind of that email weekly. And I really love their what do you call it? Their Christmas email was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we had Elliot going down the chimney as Santa. And, every member of the team was caricatured up. Into the inbox. Yeah, that was great. Cool. All right. So now we get to shout out all our favorite people. So who are your favorite email developers?
Gosh, there are too many. Oh my gosh, there are too many. My favorite email developers, I mean, obviously Jay, Ann Tomlin, who was on right before me, and really, really amazing and has answered questions for me. So is Jay and Mark and Remy, Stephen Seo. I talk to them all the time. Alice Lee.
Cool.
I can say that. So I remember before me and her had met, Litmus Live. It was the first time I went to. So I feel like I went in 2018 was my first one. And in Boston. And she was at Shutterfly at the time.
Oh, cool.
And she did this session on interactive email, and it just like blew my mind away. I think that was like one of the moments where I was like, and when I went to that in 2018, like I wasn't fully on board with email yet. And it was like, that was like the moment where I was like, oh, this is really cool. It's like by the time I left
like-
that conference, it was like I was like just sucked into a cult. Really,
I gotta do it.
All in. I gotta do this.
Right. Once you go to a conference, you meet people. It's so different. Like it goes up a
and
level.
like even at that one, I didn't know or meet a lot of people yet. Because when I get into a situation like that, like I'm usually pretty like quiet.
It's overwhelming.
It wasn't until 2019 that I went like, and I kind of already
right now, and I can tell you probably had a similar experience to me because like I went to Litmus Live in 2016 in London, and I didn't go with anyone else from my company. Like most people that go to these things, it's usually like a bunch of people from a company.
Right.
So they have each other. Right. So you're on your own, you're like kind of bouncing around, and actually ran into Remy, we talked about at the back.
Nice.
And I was like, he was by himself, and I was like, oh, what's your name? Remy? I'm like, Remy Parmentier? He's like, yeah. I gave him a hug. I was like,
yeah, I was just like, yeah, I remember.
You saved my life, you know, like here's my job. I got to make this email look like something, and there's a giant something wrong with it, you know. I don't even know what it is. So
and like I remember having a problem one time and posting in the email code channel, and like Mark Robbins came and helped me, and I was like, Mark Robbins is helping me. Oh my gosh. And
now he's,
and if he watches this now, he's gonna be like, Megan, what the hell?
he might be watching. I'll tell you what, he saw the Ann Tomlin episode, I know, and he's actually coming on next week. He just let me know right an hour before this interview. You know, he linked in me. I asked him for last year, and he said he couldn't because of legal stuff or permission stuff from Salesforce.
Yeah.
But then I saw he was on Humans of Email. So
it was a great episode.
He was on email.
Okay.
And,
I can shout out like my favorite. Well, I love everyone. I don't want to say favorites. I love everyone.
I wonder what happened to Stig. I don't know, Stig, if you're still around. You know Stig?
I haven't talked to Stig.
Do you know who Stig is?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he built all the campaign monitor tools.
Yeah.
Like
people
the bulletproof button and the background tool. Like
I'd love to I use the
Stig.
lists. I use the list.cm all the time.
Okay. I didn't even know about that one.
Oh yeah, lists.cm helps do
bulletproof lists
things. Yeah, which I use as like a base for my lists, which is it's really helpful. I mean, other favorite email developer, Karen is one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, Karen, why am I blanking on your last name right now? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on Karen's last name. I'm not sure who you're talking about. Karen's at Litmus. Karen, I'm sorry. I'm blanking on your last name, and I don't know why. This is terrible.
Well, to be fair, we should shout out Litmus for something good here. Litmus before.
I didn't say anything bad.
No, but just before, even though with this, we're talking to someone from Pathwire who's on the. So Litmus is that other company, but anyway.
Karen's like forums,
the discussion groups. That was like, okay, I have a bug. Post it, and get answers. That was amazing.
Karen's my email BFF. We talk all the time. She's one of my favorite people in the whole entire universe. I'd probably be going on forever, just like thanking people. I feel like so many people, developers and non-developers alike, have just helped me so much in my career over the last 5 years. Like I wouldn't be in this position without all that help. There's Jen Capstraw, encouraged me to start speaking. April Mullen is always, just someone who's always there to support. Summer Awais is a copywriter, email strategist. Sure. She's incredible, and we chat all the time. There's just Stephanie Griffith, me and Avi are really good friends. There's just so many people, and it's just it would take an hour just to list out everyone. Everyone.
All right. Well, the community is awesome. Incredible. Check them out on the email geeks Slack channel. It's fantastic. All right, and we've come to the end, and it's really just final thoughts. You could just say what's on your mind.
Oh my gosh. Final thoughts. Go join Email Geeks and use Parcel.
All right.
Email is awesome. Come join us.
All right. Yeah, fun. Definitely. There's room for email marketers and email developers particularly.
Yeah. Oh,
There's
yes.
lots of, what Anne said last week is that there's a lot of work out there, and
So much work.
help is needed. So if you're thinking about becoming a developer, there's resources, and we're here for you.
You get out of the community what you put into it. Come hang out.
Awesome. All right, Meg Bosh, or Megan Boshuyzen. Thank you for coming today. It's been a blast. It's exactly 1 hour. We're on the mark.
Awesome.
So thank you so much. I'll see you. All right, that's our show for today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It was great to see eyes the whole way through. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments or questions, please reach out. A special thank you again to Inboxing for sponsoring, and there are still sponsor opportunities available. If anyone's interested in sponsoring, you can visit hillelberg.com/sponsor.